I stand in the lobby of the Grandview Plaza Hotel, a 5-star establishment in downtown Chicago. My son Brian, whom I haven't seen in 18 years, has just walked through the revolving doors wearing an expensive suit that can't hide the desperation in his eyes. Brian's first words after nearly 2 decades. "Dad, I need $1 million. I'm bankrupt. You're my father." I remember the last time we spoke, when Brian called me an embarrassment and walked out forever. Now everything has changed, and Brian has no idea what's coming. 18 years ago, I was 52 years old, working as a senior quality control manager at Baxter Industrial Solutions in Milwaukee. I'd been there for 23 years, rising through the ranks, from floor technician to management. My colleagues respected me. I had a solid middle-class life, nothing fancy, but stable, comfortable. My wife Linda had died of ovarian cancer 2 years before, leaving me and our 17-year-old son Brian to figure out life without her. She was the glue that held us together, the warmth in our home. After she passed, the house felt colder, emptier. Brian was a senior in high school, popular with his classmates, captain of the debate team. He was dating Amanda, a girl from one of those wealthy families that seemed to live in a different universe than ours. Her father owned a chain of car dealerships across Wisconsin and Illinois. I could tell Amanda's family looked down on us. The way her mother smiled politely but never quite warmly when she picked Amanda up from our modest 3-bedroom ranch. The way her father asked what I did for a living with that tone that said he was already calculating my worth and finding it insufficient. It was a Tuesday morning in March when I got called into a meeting with the regional director and someone from Human Resources I'd never seen before. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as they delivered the news with practiced efficiency. The company was downsizing. My entire department was being eliminated. They gave me 3 months of severance pay and a handshake, 23 years of loyalty, and I was gone. The worst part was the pension. Due to some corporate restructuring loophole I didn't fully understand, my pension was being absorbed into the bankruptcy proceedings of a subsidiary company. The lawyers explained it in terms that seemed designed to confuse. Bottom line, decades of retirement savings, gone. I drove home in a daze, practiced my speech in the car. I'd tell Brian we'd be fine. I'd find another job. We'd get through this together, just like we got through losing his mother. Brian was in the kitchen when I got home, making a sandwich, texting on his phone, probably Amanda. He looked up when I walked in. "You're home early," he said. I told him. Tried to keep my voice steady, confident. Told him it was just a temporary setback. I had experience, skills, connections. Someone would hire me soon. His face changed. The color drained from his cheeks, then rushed back as red anger. "Are you kidding me right now?" His voice cracked. "I have college applications pending. Northwestern. That's where Amanda's going. Do you have any idea what this makes me look like?" "Brian, this isn't about how it looks. It's about us figuring out our next step." "Our next step? There is no our. You had one job, Dad. Keep things stable. And you couldn't even do that." I tried to explain that it wasn't my fault, that the entire department was eliminated, but he wasn't listening. He was thinking about Amanda's family, about how they'd react, about the narrative this created. The poor kid with the unemployed father. I started sending out resumes the next day, filled out applications online, reached out to former colleagues, called every contact in my network. The responses were depressingly similar. Overqualified for entry-level positions. Too specialized for general management. At 52, I was too old to start over but too young to retire. Weeks turned into months. The severance pay dwindled. I missed a house payment, then another. Brian barely spoke to me. He'd come home from school, grab food, disappear into his room. Amanda stopped coming to the house entirely. They met elsewhere, at places I couldn't afford anymore. 2 months after I lost my job, I came home to find Brian in his room, packing his belongings into garbage bags and cardboard boxes. His debate team trophies, his clothes, his books, everything. "What are you doing?" My voice sounded small, afraid. He didn't look at me, just kept folding shirts, shoving them into bags. Amanda's father offered to pay for my college, Northwestern. Full ride, room and board, everything. I'm moving in with them. Brian, we can figure something out. I'm still applying. I've got some promising leads. He finally turned to face me. The look in his eyes wasn't anger anymore. It was worse. It was contempt. You're an embarrassment, he said. Each word deliberate, sharp. Mom would be ashamed of what you've become. You had one job, keep us stable, and you couldn't even do that. I'm done pretending we're a real family. I felt something break inside my chest. Son, please, we can work through this. Don't call me that. He zipped up a duffel bag. I need to build a life with people who actually succeed. People who don't give up. People who matter. Brian, don't contact me. I mean it. I'm starting fresh. Clean slate. And that doesn't include you. He walked past me, bags in hand. I heard his footsteps on the stairs. Heard the front door open and close. Heard a car start in the driveway. Amanda's father's Mercedes. I stood in his empty room as the sun set outside his window. My son, my only child, the person Linda and I had poured all our love into, had just erased me from his life, called me an embarrassment, said his mother would be ashamed. The words echoed in the empty house. An embarrassment, an embarrassment, an embarrassment. 3 months later, the bank foreclosed on the house. I moved what little I had left into a studio apartment on Milwaukee's south side. The neighborhood wasn't dangerous exactly, but it wasn't safe either. Sirens at night, arguments through thin walls, the smell of something burning, drifting up from the apartment below. I took a position as a night security guard at a warehouse complex. $10 an hour, midnight to 8 in the morning. Then I'd drive to a hardware store where I worked weekends, stocking shelves and helping customers. During the week, I washed dishes at a chain restaurant from 4 to 10 in the evening, then drove straight to the security job. I slept in scattered chunks. 3 hours here, 2 hours there. My body ached constantly. I was 54 years old, and I felt 70. I tried reaching out to Brian twice in those first months. Sent a letter to Amanda's parents' address. It came back marked return to sender. I got a new phone number through a former neighbor and called. Brian answered, recognized my voice, and immediately hung up. When I tried again, the number was blocked. I heard through those same former neighbors that Brian had graduated from Northwestern with honors, that he'd gotten engaged to Amanda, that they were planning a big wedding at some country club, that Brian was working in commercial real estate development, Amanda's father helping him get started. My son was building the successful life he wanted. Without me. The lowest point came on a Tuesday night. I remember it was Tuesday because Tuesdays were meatloaf day at the restaurant, and we could take home leftovers that didn't sell. But that Tuesday, everything sold. I got home at 11:30 at night after the restaurant shift. Had to leave for the security job at 11:45. I opened my tiny refrigerator and found half a jar of peanut butter and some saltine crackers. I sat on the edge of my mattress on the floor, eating peanut butter on crackers, and thought about Linda. Wondered if Brian was right. Wondered if she would be ashamed of me. Wondered how I'd fallen so far. Then I had to get up and drive to the warehouse because being sad doesn't pay rent. The hardware store became my unexpected lifeline, though I didn't know it at the time. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was working the plumbing and adhesives aisle. A man in his late 70s walked up, distinguished looking in a neat cardigan and pressed slacks. He had a specific question about a weatherproof sealant, some specialty product we carried for industrial applications. Does this maintain its integrity below freezing? He asked, reading the label. Most customers wanted to know if something worked. This man wanted to know how it worked. The polymer base starts to lose flexibility around 20 degrees Fahrenheit, I told him. If you need something that holds in extreme cold, you want something with a silicone base instead of acrylic. We've got one in aisle 7 that's rated to -40. His eyebrows went up. You know your chemistry. Used to work in quality control. Industrial applications. You learn what holds and what fails. We talked for 20 minutes. About chemical bonds and temperature thresholds and substrate compatibility. The kind of technical conversation I hadn't had since I lost my job at Baxter. When we finished, he handed me a business card. Walter Grayson. owner of Great Lakes Chemical Distribution. I run a small outfit, he said. 7 employees. We supply specialty chemicals to manufacturers. I could use someone with your knowledge as a technical sales consultant. Pay's not amazing, $35,000 a year to start. But it's better than 3 part-time jobs. I stared at the card. $35,000 would barely cover my expenses, but it was a real job. One job, normal hours, using my brain instead of just my back. When can I start? I asked. Walter smiled. Monday. Working at Great Lakes, Chemical felt like coming back to life. Walter's operation was small but respectable. He'd built it over 40 years, knew every product in the catalog, remembered every customer by name. The company operated out of a modest warehouse with a tiny office attached. Nothing fancy, but honest work. I discovered I had a natural talent for technical sales. I could listen to a manufacturer's problem and see the chemical solution. A rubber gasket company struggling with adhesion in high-heat applications. A small shipyard dealing with rust issues on their fasteners. A food processing plant needing a cleaning agent that was both effective and food safe. Within 6 months, I was Walter's top-performing consultant. Within a year, I was handling the company's biggest accounts. Walter started teaching me the business side, how to read a balance sheet, how to manage inventory, how to build relationships with suppliers. He had no children, no family to speak of. His wife had passed away 15 years earlier. The company was his legacy, and I think he saw something in me, maybe recognized a fellow survivor. We worked together for 18 months. The best 18 months I'd had since Linda died. I moved into a slightly better apartment, started eating real meals, began to feel like a person again, instead of just a machine that worked and slept. Then Walter called me into his office on a Thursday afternoon. He looked older than usual, tired in a way that went beyond normal fatigue. "I've got lung cancer," he said simply. "Aggressive. They're giving me 6 months, maybe less." I felt the floor drop out from under me. "Walter, I'm so sorry. What can I do? How can I help?" He waved away my concern. "I'm 78 years old, Carlton. Had a good run, but I need to make arrangements for the company. I've been thinking about this for a while, even before the diagnosis." He pulled out a folder from his desk drawer. "I'm going to sell you Great Lakes Chemical for $1, he said. He stared at him. "Walter, I can't afford." "Let me finish. $1 purchase price. You'll pay me 20% of profits for 5 years or until I die, whichever comes first. After that, it's yours free and clear. No banks, no outside investors. Just you and me." "Why would you do this?" His eyes got watery. "Because you're the only person I trust to keep this place alive. Because you understand what it means to lose everything and fight your way back. Because you treat our employees like human beings and our customers like partners. And because I don't have anyone else." I was 56 years old, unemployed and homeless just 4 years earlier. And now someone was handing me a company doing $800,000 in annual revenue. "I don't know what to say," I whispered. "Say yes," Walter said, "and promise me you'll take care of our people." He promised. Walter passed away 4 months later, peaceful, in his sleep, in the hospice facility. I was there when he went, held his hand, told him I'd make him proud. At his funeral, all 7 employees attended. So did a dozen longtime customers. The preacher talked about Walter's integrity, his fairness, his belief that business should be built on relationships, not just transactions. I stood at the graveside and made a silent vow. I would honor Walter's legacy. I would build something that mattered. I would prove that being knocked down doesn't mean staying down. I was the owner of Great Lakes Chemical Distribution, and I was going to make it succeed beyond anything Walter could have imagined. The first year after Walter's death, I worked like a man possessed. 80-hour weeks were normal. 90 wasn't unusual. I'd arrive at the warehouse at 6 in the morning and leave at midnight. The employees watched me with a mixture of concern and inspiration. My first major decision was strategic. The chemical distribution business was brutally competitive at the commodity level. Big companies could always undercut on price because of their volume. We couldn't compete there. We'd be crushed. But I'd noticed something during my time as a technical consultant. Small to medium-sized manufacturers had problems that the big distributors ignored. They needed specialty chemicals in smaller quantities. They needed technical expertise, not just product. They needed someone who answered the phone and actually solved their problems, instead of transferring them to 6 different departments. We would be that someone. I repositioned Great Lakes Chemical as the go-to source for hard-to-find industrial chemicals and technical problem-solving. If a customer had a weird application, a unique challenge, something the big guys didn't want to bother with, they called us. It worked. Year 1 under my ownership. Revenue hit $1.2 million. We hired 3 more employees. I gave everyone a raise and started a profit-sharing program. Walter had always treated his people well. I would do the same. Year 2, I made another crucial decision. We'd start doing custom chemical blending. Most distributors just resold products from manufacturers. We'd create our own formulations for specific applications. That meant we needed a laboratory. I found a small industrial space adjacent to our warehouse and converted it. Bought used equipment from a pharmaceutical company that was upgrading. Spent every dollar I made and then some. But we needed a chemist. Someone with real credentials and creativity. I found Dr. Patricia Stern through a network of industry contacts. She'd been laid off from a major pharmaceutical company during their restructuring. She was 62 years old, brilliant, and tired of corporate politics. She wanted to do actual science again, instead of attending meetings about meetings. I offered her $60,000 a year and equity in the company. She took the job in 48 hours. Patricia transformed our capabilities. She understood that chemistry wasn't just theory. It was practical application, solving real-world problems with molecular solutions. Her first major project was developing a rust prevention formula for marine environments. Traditional products worked okay in dry conditions or occasional wetness, but constant saltwater exposure broke them down fast. She created a proprietary coating that bonded at the molecular level with steel surfaces and repelled both water and salt ions. We patented the formula. A mid-sized shipbuilding company in Duluth tried it. Their rust problems dropped by 87%. Word spread through the maritime industry. By year 6, that single product line was generating $4.5 million in annual revenue. I reinvested everything. More lab equipment, better facilities, higher salaries to attract top talent. I still lived in my modest 2-bedroom condo, still drove my 7-year-old Ford truck, but the company was growing, thriving, becoming something Walter would have been proud of. Year 8 changed everything. Patricia came to my office on a Monday morning, with the kind of expression scientists get when they've discovered something important. "I think we've got something," she said. She'd been working on industrial degreasers. Most effective degreasers were petroleum-based, which meant they were toxic, harsh on the environment, and increasingly regulated. Green alternatives existed but didn't work as well. You had to choose, effective or environmentally friendly, but not both. Patricia had found both. Her formulation used plant-based surfactants combined with a catalytic agent she'd synthesized from agricultural waste products. It cut through industrial grease as effectively as petroleum-based products but was completely biodegradable. And it was cheaper to produce. We spent 6 months testing, refining, perfecting, filed for patents, started production. The response was overwhelming. Manufacturers loved it because it worked. Environmental compliance officers loved it because it was green. Accountants loved it because it saved money. Year 10, we hit $18 million in revenue. We employed 42 people. I'd moved from the condo into a simple 3-bedroom ranch house in a quiet Milwaukee suburb. Nothing ostentatious, just comfortable. A place where I could sit on the back deck with morning coffee and watch birds at the feeder. Every year on Brian's birthday, I wrote him a letter I never sent. Told him about the company, about the people I worked with, about life without him. Told him I loved him and hoped he was happy. The letters sat in a box in my closet. 18 envelopes. 18 years of words he'd never read. Year 12 brought another turning point. Representatives from Meridian Chemical Industries, a Fortune 500 company, showed up unannounced. 3 executives in expensive suits, flying in from their headquarters in New Jersey. They wanted to buy our patent portfolio and proprietary formulations. Their offer was $12 million. $12 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Enough to retire comfortably. Travel. Maybe try to reconnect with Brian from a position of financial security. I asked for a week to think about it. That week, I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. These formulas were the result of Patricia's genius and years of work. They were our competitive advantage. Selling them would give us a cash windfall but gut our future. I called the Meridian executives and declined. They were shocked. Tried to sweeten the deal. 15 million, then 18. I kept saying no. 2 weeks after I turned down their final offer, Patricia burst into my office. She'd been working late nights on a new project, something she was keeping quiet until she had results. "Carlton, you need to see this." She led me to the lab. On the counter sat small squares of what looked like clear plastic film. Next to them, regular plastic-coated cardboard food packaging. "What am I looking at?" I asked. "The future of food packaging," she said. "That film is a biodegradable coating that can replace plastic lamination. It's waterproof, grease-resistant, heat-stable, and fully compostable within 90 days. I picked up one of the samples. It felt like regular laminated packaging. "How much does it cost to produce?" Patricia smiled. 30% less than plastic lamination, and it passes every FDA safety test. I understood immediately what we were holding. The food packaging industry used billions of square feet of plastic-coated materials every year. If we could replace even a fraction of that with a cheaper, better, environmentally friendly alternative. This wasn't a $12 million opportunity. This was a $100 million opportunity. Maybe more. "How close are we to commercial production?" I asked. 6 months of development. Maybe 8. But Carlton, the investment required. We're talking millions in new equipment, expanded production facilities, regulatory approval processes. I thought about the $12 million I'd just turned down. Thought about Walter teaching me that the biggest risks often brought the biggest rewards. Thought about every person who'd told me I was too old to start over, that I should accept my limitations, that I was just an embarrassment who'd lost everything. "How much do we need?" I asked. Patricia did some quick calculations. 2.3 million. Minimum. I owned my house outright. The company had some credit. I had savings. "Let's do it," I said. Patricia looked concerned. "Carlton, if this fails, you could lose everything. Again. Then I'll build it back again. We're doing this." I mortgaged everything I owned. Took out every loan I could qualify for. Put it all on the line for Patricia's revolutionary biodegradable packaging coating. It was the biggest gamble of my life. Patricia's team worked around the clock for 8 months. I'd arrive at the facility at dawn and find her already in the lab, surrounded by beakers and spectrometers and notebooks filled with chemical equations. She'd still be there when I left at night. The rest of the company watched our investment with nervous hope. Everyone knew we'd bet everything on this project. If it failed, layoffs were inevitable. If it succeeded, we'd all be part of something historic. I'd invested $2.3 million. Every dollar I could borrow, every asset I could leverage. At 63 years old, I was betting my entire future on plant-based polymers and catalytic agents I barely understood. The formula exceeded every expectation. FDA safety tests. Passed. Commercial viability tests. Passed. Cost analysis. 30% cheaper than plastic lamination. Durability testing. Outperformed conventional materials. Environmental breakdown. Fully composted in 87 days. We filed for patents in the United States, Europe, and Asia. Hired an intellectual property law firm that specialized in chemical innovations. Protected every aspect of the formulation and production process. Then we started talking to food packaging companies. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Everyone wanted it. Fast food chains tired of environmental criticism. Food manufacturers looking to reduce costs. Grocery stores wanting to market green initiatives. Government agencies offering grants for sustainable materials. We didn't sell the formula. We licensed production rights with substantial royalty agreements. Every square foot of our coating material used anywhere in the world meant money flowing back to Great Lakes Chemical. Year 13, our revenue exploded to $47 million. Year 14, hit $68 million. We employed 130 people. I moved our operations to a modern facility with a state-of-the-art laboratory and production lines. Gave everyone in the company a substantial bonus. Started a full benefits package with health insurance, retirement matching, and tuition reimbursement for employees' children. I finally allowed myself to move into a nicer home. Nothing ostentatious. A comfortable 3-bedroom ranch with a 2-car garage and a small yard. I bought a new truck. Treated myself to a vacation, my first in years. Went to Montana, hiked in Glacier National Park, breathed clean air, and felt accomplished. The awards started coming. Wisconsin Small Business Person of the Year, Environmental Innovation Award from the EPA, recognition from industry trade groups. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel ran a feature article, From Unemployed to Unstoppable, Milwaukee Man Builds Chemical Empire. The story detailed my journey, losing my job at 52, the foreclosure, working 3 part-time jobs, Walter's gift, the slow build to success. I did the interview because I thought maybe, just maybe, Brian would see it, that it might prompt him to reach out, to say something, anything. The silence continued. No phone call, no email, no letter, nothing. Year 15 brought acquisition offers. 3 major corporations approached us separately, offers ranging from $40 million to $65 million. Real money, life-changing wealth. I turned them all down. Great Lakes Chemical wasn't just a company anymore. It was a family. 130 employees who trusted me. Patricia, who'd bet her career on my vision. Walter's legacy, growing beyond anything he'd imagined. But I couldn't stop thinking about Brian, wondering about him, hoping he was okay. I did something I'm not proud of. I hired a private investigator, not to contact Brian, just to know he was all right, to see if he needed anything, to understand the life he'd built without me. The report came back thick with details. Brian had married Amanda 8 years ago. Big wedding at a country club in Lake Forest, Illinois. They had 2 children, a son named Cooper, age 6, a daughter named Grace, age 4. My grandchildren, kids I'd never met who didn't know I existed. Brian worked in commercial real estate development in Chicago. His firm specialized in office building conversions and mixed-use developments. Successful, according to public records. He and Amanda lived in a nice house in Evanston. Country club membership, private school for the kids. The life he'd wanted. I looked at the photos the investigator provided. Brian pushing Cooper on a swing set. Amanda holding Grace at what looked like a birthday party. My son looked older, more serious, but successful. Put together. Part of me felt relief. He'd made it. He'd built the life he dreamed of. Part of me felt a grief so deep I couldn't name it. He'd done it all without me. I'd missed 6 years of my grandson's life. 4 years of my granddaughter's. Every birthday. Every milestone. Every moment. But I respected his choice. He'd made it clear 18 years ago. Don't contact me. I'm starting fresh. That doesn't include you. So I didn't reach out. Just kept the investigator's report in my desk drawer and tried to be happy that my son was thriving. Year 17 changed everything again. The investigator called me on a Tuesday morning. His voice was different, cautious. Mr. Carlton, I have an update on your son. You're going to want to sit down. Saturday. Brian's real estate development firm has collapsed. The commercial real estate market crashed hard in Chicago over the past year. His company specialized in office building conversions. With remote work becoming permanent, office space values tanked. Multiple projects went bankrupt simultaneously. My chest tightened. Is he okay? The kids? It gets worse. The bank is foreclosing on his house. His business partner fled to avoid fraud charges, left Brian holding all the liability. There's a criminal investigation. Amanda filed for divorce 3 months ago. Took the kids to Boston to live with her sister. And Amanda's father, who backed several of Brian's deals, lost everything too. Had a major stroke. He's in a nursing facility. I couldn't breathe. How bad is it? I asked. Brian's facing personal bankruptcy and possible criminal charges for misrepresented property values. His lawyer says the criminal case is weak, mostly his partner's fault, but defending it will cost hundreds of thousands. He's lost everything, Mr. Carlton. His business, his house, his family. He's living in a small apartment in the city, working as a real estate agent just to make rent. My son, the successful son who called me an embarrassment, who built his perfect life, who erased me from his existence because I represented failure. He was now exactly where I'd been 18 years ago. I didn't know whether to feel vindicated or devastated. Mostly, I just felt sad. I struggled for weeks with what to do about Brian's situation. Part of me wanted to reach out immediately, to help, to be the father I'd always been, despite everything. But another part of me remembered his words. You're an embarrassment. Mom would be ashamed of what you've become. Don't contact me. Would he even want my help? Or would my intervention just add humiliation to his suffering? Before I could decide, my phone rang with a call that would change everything. Titan Chem Global, international chemical conglomerate. $73 billion in annual revenue. Operations in 42 countries. Their CEO wanted to meet with me personally. He flew to Milwaukee on a corporate jet. Charles Brennan, 68 years old, third-generation chemical executive. We met in my office, which suddenly felt very small compared to his world. Mr. Carlton, he said, shaking my hand with genuine warmth. I've been watching your company for 3 years. What you've built is remarkable. We talked for 4 hours. About the sustainable packaging division. About Patricia's innovations. About our company culture and customer loyalty. About the future of green chemistry in industrial applications. Finally, he got to the point. Titan Chem wants to acquire Great Lakes Chemical. Complete acquisition. We're prepared to offer $85 million. The number hung in the air between us. $85 million. The terms are important, Charles continued. You'd retain a 10% equity stake in the division. Stay on as a consultant for 3 years at $200,000 annually. All 130 of your employees keep their jobs with better benefits. Patricia becomes Vice President of Research and Development, with a substantial salary increase, and her own team. Your company's name and culture remain intact. We're not buying you to gut you. We're buying you to learn from you. I asked for time to think, to consult with Patricia and the leadership team. We met that evening. Patricia, our CFO, our operations manager, and me. I laid out the offer. What do you want to do? Patricia asked. I thought about Walter, about the promise I'd made at his funeral, about the employees who trusted me. I want to know that everyone is taken care of, I said. That what we built continues. That it matters. We spent 2 weeks negotiating details, employee protections, cultural preservation clauses, Patricia's role and autonomy, everything that mattered beyond the money. Finally, we reached an agreement everyone felt good about. I was 69 years old, tired but fulfilled, ready to step back from the 80-hour weeks, ready to let someone else carry the torch. In April, we signed the papers. In May, the money transferred, $85 million. After taxes, debts, and setting aside money for employee bonuses, I had $56 million. More money than I'd ever imagined. More money than I knew what to do with. The business press covered the story extensively. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel ran another feature. Local chemical company sells for $85 million. The article detailed my entire journey. From unemployed and homeless to multi-millionaire entrepreneur. The American dream realized through persistence and innovation. The story went viral in business circles, shared thousands of times on social media. Industry publications picked it up. Forbes called, requesting an interview. I granted one interview, only one, to Forbes, because they promised to focus on the business lessons rather than sensationalism. The journalist asked good questions about resilience, about rebuilding after failure, about treating employees as partners rather than resources, about long-term thinking versus quarterly profits. At the end, She asked about my personal life. Do you have family? She asked. I paused. My wife Linda passed away 20 years ago. She was the best person I ever knew. Everything good in my life, she helped build. Children? Another pause. I have a son. We're estranged. Have been for many years. It's my greatest failure and my deepest sadness. The article ran 2 weeks later. Alongside it, photos of me in the laboratory with Patricia, standing in front of our facility, sitting at my modest desk. The headline read, "From Foreclosure to Fortune, How One Man Built an $85 million Company After Losing Everything." I read it once, then put it away. The success felt hollow without someone to share it with. 2 weeks after the article published, I was in Chicago for a chemical industry conference. 3 days of presentations, networking, discussions about the future of sustainable manufacturing. I stayed at the Grandview Plaza Hotel in the Loop. 5-star accommodations, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, staff that anticipated your needs before you knew you had them. The kind of place I could never have afforded 18 years ago. The evening of the second day, exhausted from presentations and meetings, I sat in the hotel lobby reviewing my notes for the next morning's panel discussion. The lobby was quiet at this hour. Most guests had gone to dinner or their rooms. I looked up from my papers and saw him, Brian, walking through the revolving doors. 18 years older, still handsome but worn. Lines around his eyes I didn't remember. He'd lost weight recently. His expensive suit hung slightly loose on his frame. Our eyes met across the marble expanse. He froze for a moment. I saw recognition, calculation, then decision flash across his face. He walked straight toward me. Not the walk of someone greeting a long-lost father. The walk of someone approaching a business transaction. No, hello. No, it's been a long time. No, how are you? Just, Dad, I need $1 million. I'm bankrupt. You're my father. I know you sold your company. I saw the articles. You owe me this. I'm your son, your only family. 18 years of silence. And his first words were a demand for money. I felt something inside me that I couldn't quite name. Not anger, not surprise, just a deep, profound sadness. Sit down, Brian, I said quietly. He sat in the leather chair across from me. Even in desperation, he carried himself with the posture of someone used to expensive things. Country clubs and private schools and the best of everything. I don't have time for a long conversation, he said. I'm in serious trouble, legal trouble, financial trouble. I need help now. Tell me what happened, I said. He told me. The commercial real estate crash. The office conversion projects that collapsed. The business partner who committed fraud and fled, leaving Brian to face the consequences. The criminal investigation. The bankruptcy. Amanda filing for divorce. Her father's stroke. The foreclosure. Everything in his voice suggested these were things that happened to him. Bad luck. Unfortunate circumstances. Not consequences of choices. Not results of actions. No acknowledgement that we were sitting in this hotel lobby after 18 years of silence. No, I'm sorry. No, I was wrong. No recognition that our last conversation had ended with him calling me an embarrassment and telling me his mother would be ashamed of me. Just, I need $1 million immediately. $500,000 for legal defense. $300,000 to settle debts and avoid criminal charges. $200,000 to get back on my feet. You have $85 million. $1 million is nothing to you. I'm your son. Family helps family. The last sentence almost made me laugh. Family helps family. From the man who hadn't spoken to me in 18 years. Do you remember the last words you said to me? I asked quietly. Brian looked uncomfortable, shifted in his chair. Dad, that was a long time ago. I was a kid. Emotional. Can we not do this now? I'm in crisis. You called me an embarrassment, I said. You said your mother would be ashamed of me. You told me not to contact you because you needed to build a life with people who actually succeed. I was 18 years old and angry. His voice rose slightly. Are you really going to hold that against me forever? I was young and stupid and scared. I needed to make my own way. You made your way, I said. I respected that. even though it broke my heart. But you never once called. Not on my birthday. Not on Christmas. Not when I was living in a studio apartment eating one meal a day so I could afford rent. You could have called me, Brian shot back. You're the parent. I sent 2 letters. You returned them unopened. I called. You blocked my number. Silence stretched between us. I hired a private investigator 5 years ago, I continued. Not to interfere with your life. Just to know you were okay. I learned you got married. That you have children. That I have grandchildren I've never met. You never told me. Do Cooper and Grace even know I exist? Brian looked away. Amanda thought it was better if we just moved forward. Without complications from the past. Complications, I repeated. That's what I am to you. This is exactly why I stayed away. Brian's voice hardened. You're guilt-tripping me when I'm asking for help. What kind of father holds a grudge when his son is drowning? What kind of son only comes back when he needs money? The words hung in the air between us. We sat in silence for a long moment. The hotel lobby continued its quiet evening rhythm around us. Guests passing by. Staff tending to their duties. None of them aware of the 18 years of pain compressed into this conversation. Brian broke first. Fine. You want me to apologize? I'll apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was embarrassed when you lost your job. I'm sorry I wanted better for myself than watching you fail. I'm sorry I didn't want to be dragged down with you. Are you happy now? Can we move past this? His words confirmed everything I'd suspected. He wasn't sorry. He was desperate. You're not apologizing for what you did, I said quietly. You're apologizing because you need something from me. What do you want from me? Brian's voice cracked with frustration. You want me to grovel? To beg? I'm here, aren't I? I'm asking for help. Isn't that what fathers are supposed to do? Help their children? Help, yes. Enable, no. There's a difference. Enable? Brian stood up, then sat back down, aware that his raised voice was drawing attention. I'm facing prison, Dad. Prison. My children have already lost their home. Amanda won't even let me see them without supervision. I've lost everything. And you're sitting here with $85 million lecturing me about enablement? I pulled out my phone, opened my photos, turned the screen toward him. This is a check I wrote 6 months ago. $950,000 to the American Cancer Society, in memory of your mother. Brian stared at the photo. I swiped to the next image. This is another check, $500,000, to establish a scholarship fund for children of displaced workers. Kids whose parents lost their jobs through no fault of their own. Kids who might otherwise not afford college. Another swipe, $300,000. To fund research into affordable cancer treatments, Patricia's team is working with a university medical center. Early detection methods for low-income communities. What's your point? Brian asked, but his voice had lost some of its edge. I've given away $4.2 million in the past 6 months. To causes that matter. To help people who are struggling through circumstances beyond their control. I put my phone away. You're not here because you love me. You're not here because you're sorry. You're here because you need something, and you think I owe it to you. I'm your son. Yes, you are. And that's the only reason we're having this conversation. Brian leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. For the first time, I saw the desperation beneath the anger, the fear, the genuine terror of a man watching his entire life collapse. I don't know what else to do, he said quietly. I've tried everything, sold everything I could sell, borrowed from everyone I could borrow from. The lawyers need money I don't have. The creditors are circling. Amanda's family won't speak to me. I have nowhere else to turn. So you turn to the embarrassment, I said. He flinched at the word. I was wrong to say that. I was cruel. I was a stupid kid who thought success was about money and status and impressing people who didn't matter. And now I'm a stupid adult who's lost everything that actually did matter. It was the first honest thing he'd said since sitting down. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a folder, set it on the table between us. What's this? Brian asked. Open it. He did. Inside was a business card. Gregory Walsh, attorney at law. one of Chicago's most respected criminal defense lawyers. "I called Gregory this morning," I said. "After I saw you in the Forbes article comment section. You created a fake account, but you used your birthday in the username. I knew you'd come." Brian looked up at me, confusion and hope warring on his face. "Gregory is expecting your call. His retainer is paid for 1 year of representation. He'll keep you out of prison if you're completely honest with him and follow his advice. No lies, no shortcuts. Full cooperation with investigators. Take responsibility for your part, and clearly separate yourself from your partner's fraud." Brian stared at the business card like it was a winning lottery ticket. "There's more," I said. He pulled out the next document. "Contact information for Eleanor Price, financial restructuring consultant. Eleanor specializes in bankruptcy cases. She helps people navigate the process with dignity and create realistic plans for their future. She'll help you understand what you can salvage, what you have to let go, and how to rebuild your credit over time. Her fees are paid for 6 months of work." Next item. "A lease agreement for a 1-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park." "It's not the house you lost," I said. "It's 800 square feet, small kitchen, 1 bathroom, but it's in a safe neighborhood with good schools nearby. Maybe Amanda will let the kids visit once you're stable. The lease is paid for 6 months." Brian's hands were shaking as he looked through the documents. The final item. "A letter of employment offer from Great Lakes Chemical Distribution, now Titan Chem Great Lakes Division. Patricia needs a business development coordinator. $48,000 a year. Health benefits. Retirement matching. Nothing glamorous. You'll be setting up meetings, preparing proposals, doing research on potential clients. But you have experience in real estate and sales. The skills transfer. The job is yours if you want it." Brian looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "This isn't $1 million. "No," I agreed. "It's something better. It's a chance to earn your way back, the same way I did after you left." "I don't understand. Why are you doing this?" "Because I'm your father. That never changed, even when you walked away. Even when you called me an embarrassment. Even when you erased me from your life for 18 years. I don't deserve this." His voice broke. "I don't deserve you. Maybe not. But love isn't about deserving. Your mother taught me that when she was dying. She made me promise I'd never give up on you, no matter what happened. I kept that promise." Brian put his head in his hands and sobbed. 18 years of pride and pain breaking open. Other guests glanced over, then politely looked away. This was grief and shame and relief all mixed together. I reached across and put my hand on his shoulder. The first physical contact we'd had in nearly 2 decades. "The legal help and the financial consulting are unconditional," I said. "You're my son. I won't let you go to prison if I can prevent it. But the apartment and the job come with conditions." He looked up, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. "You take full responsibility for your choices. No more blaming circumstances or bad luck or other people. You made decisions. Some worked out, some didn't. Own all of them." Brian nodded. "You work the job honestly. Show up on time. Do the work. Treat people with respect. Patricia's giving you a chance based on my word. Don't make me regret vouching for you." "I won't. I promise. And you start therapy. Real therapy. Not because you're broken, but because you need to figure out who you actually are when you're not trying to impress anyone." "Okay. Last condition," I said. "You don't ask me for money. For anything. Not for 6 months minimum. You live within your means. You build your life on what you earn, not on who your father is or what he has." Brian took a shaky breath. "What if I mess this up? What if I fail?" "Then you fail, and then you get up and try again. That's what life is. It's not about never falling. It's about learning to stand back up." We talked for another hour. Really talked. For the first time since his mother's funeral. Brian told me about his marriage to Amanda, how it had been built on maintaining appearances, the right house, the right schools, the right friends, how he'd lost himself trying to be worthy of her family's approval, how when everything collapsed, Amanda's love collapsed with it, because it had never been about him, just about the life he represented. He told me about Cooper and Grace, how Cooper loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist, how Grace was learning piano and had his mother's stubborn determination, how much it hurt that they were growing up in Boston without him. I told him about the company, about Walter's gift, about Patricia's genius, about the night I ate peanut butter on crackers and wondered if I should just give up. "What stopped you?" Brian asked. "From giving up?" "Spite, mostly," I admitted. "And your mother's voice in my head, telling me I was better than my circumstances. And eventually, the realization that my value as a person wasn't tied to my job or my bank account, that I could lose everything external and still be worth something. I wish I'd learned that earlier," Brian said. "You're learning it now. That's what matters." Before we parted ways, Brian asked, "Can I meet them someday? Your employees? Patricia, the people who became your family?" "When you're ready," I said. "When you've proven to yourself that you've changed. Not to me, to yourself. Then yes, I'd like that." "And Cooper and Grace? Will you meet them?" "That's between you and Amanda. But when you're ready, when you've rebuilt your life with integrity, I'd love nothing more. I've got 18 years of grandfather love saved up." "Thank you," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. For all of it." "I know," I said. "Now go make your mother proud." 6 months passed. Brian called Gregory Walsh the morning after our conversation in the hotel lobby. Spent 6 hours in his office going through everything. Every deal, every document, every decision. Gregory was brilliant and thorough. He separated Brian's legitimate business activities from his partner's fraud with surgical precision. The criminal investigation concluded 3 months later. The prosecutors determined that Brian had been negligent in his oversight but not complicit in the fraud. No charges were filed. His former business partner, they later learned, had fled to Costa Rica and would likely never face justice. But Brian was clear. Eleanor Price walked Brian through the bankruptcy process with patience and clarity. He learned what he could keep and what he had to surrender. Learned that bankruptcy wasn't a moral failure, but a legal tool for starting over. Learned to separate his self-worth from his net worth. The apartment in Lincoln Park became his sanctuary. 800 square feet of simplicity after years of excess. He bought secondhand furniture, cooked his own meals, learned to live on $48,000 a year. It was more than enough. The job at Great Lakes Chemical, now Titan Chem Great Lakes Division, surprised him. He'd expected to feel diminished, going from running his own real estate development firm to coordinating meetings and preparing proposals. Instead, he felt liberated. Patricia was demanding but fair. She expected excellence, rewarded effort, and didn't tolerate excuses. Brian found himself working harder than he had in years, not for status or money, but because the work actually mattered. He started therapy with Dr. Sarah Chen, a psychologist who specialized in men's issues and life transitions. Every Tuesday evening, he sat in her office and unpacked decades of living for external validation, of choosing status over substance, of running from his father's example instead of learning from it. "What were you actually ashamed of?" Dr. Chen asked in one session. Brian thought for a long time. "Not my father, myself. I was ashamed that I didn't know how to handle hardship with grace the way he did. So I ran away instead of learning." 3 months into his new life, Amanda agreed to a phone call. Their first real conversation since the divorce proceedings began. "The kids ask about you," she said. "What do you tell them?" "That you're working hard to become the father they deserve. That sometimes adults have to figure things out before they can be good parents. That's more generous than I've earned." "Maybe," Amanda said. "But Cooper and Grace need their father. Not the version of you who was always stressed about money and status. The real you. If you can figure out who that is." "I'm trying. I know. Your father called me." Brian sat up straight. "He did? What did you say?" "I said we'd see. That you needed to prove yourself first. That our children deserve stability, not more chaos." "That's fair, Brian." Amanda's voice softened. "I'm sorry too. For my part in everything, I pushed you to be someone you weren't, to live up to some image my parents had. I didn't love you for who you were. I loved you for who I wanted you to be. We both did that to each other," Brian said. At 5 months, Patricia called Brian into her office. "You've been doing good work," she said. "Showing up on time, following through. actually listening to feedback. Brian felt his face flush with shame. I was cruel, unforgivably cruel, every day. Brian felt tears prick his eyes. I won't. I promise. I called him on a Tuesday evening. What are you doing for Christmas? Working, probably. The office is closed, but I'll find something productive to do. Wrong answer. You're coming to Milwaukee, to my house. Patricia and her family will be there. A few of the folks from the company. Nothing fancy. Just food and conversation. Dad, I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. You're coming. That's an order. Christmas morning, I woke up early in my comfortable 3-bedroom ranch. Put a turkey in the oven. Made coffee. Watched snow fall gently outside my window. At 10, cars started arriving. Patricia and her husband. Some of the longtime employees and their families. Laughter and warmth filling my home. At 11, Brian arrived. Driving a used Honda Civic he'd bought for $3,000. He stood in my doorway holding a modest bottle of wine and looking nervous. Come in, I said. Meet the family. I introduced him around. Patricia gave him a firm handshake and a knowing look. The employees welcomed him warmly, no judgment in their eyes. Around 2 in the afternoon, another car pulled up. I looked out the window, and my breath caught. Amanda's car. With Cooper and Grace in the back seat. Brian saw them too. Went pale. Did you know about this? He asked. Amanda called last week. Said the kids wanted to meet their grandfather, and maybe spend some time with their father, in a safe, supervised environment. Brian's hands shook as Amanda helped the kids out of the car. Cooper was 6 now, tall for his age with Brian's dark hair. Grace was 4, small and serious with Amanda's eyes. Cooper, Grace, Amanda said gently. This is your grandfather, and this is your father. Cooper looked at me with wide eyes. You're really our grandfather? I really am, I said, kneeling down to his level. And I've been waiting a very long time to meet you. Do you have toys? Grace asked. Everyone laughed. I don't, I admitted. But I have cookies. And your father tells me you're learning piano. Her face lit up. I can play Jingle Bells. I'd love to hear it. The afternoon unfolded with the gentle chaos of family. Cooper told me endless dinosaur facts. Grace played my piano with the earnest concentration of a young musician. Brian sat with them, soaking in their presence like a man who'd been dying of thirst. Amanda pulled me aside at one point. Thank you for this, for helping him, for not giving up. He's my son, I said simply. That doesn't change, no matter what happens. He talks about you all the time now, about the lessons he's learning, about becoming someone his kids can be proud of. He's doing the work. I'm just providing the opportunity. As evening fell and people began to leave, Cooper came up to me. Grandpa, can we come back and visit you again? Grandpa. The word hit me like a physical thing. Anytime you want, I said, voice thick with emotion. My door is always open. After everyone left, Brian stayed behind to help clean up. We worked in comfortable silence, washing dishes and putting away leftovers. This is what happiness feels like, Brian said suddenly. Real happiness. Not the fake stuff I was chasing for years. What's the difference? I asked. Real happiness doesn't require anyone else's approval. It's just being at peace with who you are and grateful for what you have. Your mother would say you've finally grown up. She'd be right. We finished cleaning. Sat in my living room with coffee, watching snow continue to fall outside. I want to tell you something, Brian said. Something I've been working on with Dr. Chen. I'm listening. When I called you an embarrassment 18 years ago, I wasn't really talking about you. I was terrified that if you could fail, so could I. That if a hard-working, dedicated man like you could lose everything, then success wasn't real. It was just luck. And that scared me more than anything. He took a breath. So I convinced myself, you'd failed because you weren't good enough, because you were weak, because you gave up. It was the only way I could maintain the illusion that I was safe, that if I just worked hard enough, was impressive enough, I'd be protected from the randomness of life. And now? I asked. Now I understand that you didn't fail at all. You faced circumstances beyond your control with dignity and perseverance. You rebuilt your life from nothing. You created something meaningful and helped people along the way. You're the strongest person I know, and it took me losing everything to see it. I felt tears on my cheeks. I learned something too, I said. I learned that real wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in dignity, in relationships, in the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and respect who you see. I'm trying to become that person, Brian said. Someone Cooper and Grace can look up to. Someone you can be proud of. I'm already proud of you. Not because of what you've accomplished, but because of the work you're doing to change. We sat in silence for a while, watching snow fall. Two men who'd found their way back to each other through loss and pain and the slow work of redemption. Dad, Brian said quietly, thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for giving me what I needed instead of what I wanted. Thank you for teaching me that hitting bottom isn't the end. It's just the beginning of understanding what really matters. That's what fathers do, I said. They love you through the worst of it and celebrate with you when you find your way back. A year later, I stood in Patricia's laboratory as she unveiled her latest innovation, a new chemical compound with applications in medical device manufacturing. Brian stood beside me, now a full business development associate, having helped secure 3 major client contracts in his first year. Cooper and Grace visited every other weekend. I taught Cooper about chemistry and business, taught Grace piano and patience, became the grandfather I dreamed of being. Amanda remarried, a kind man who treated my grandchildren well. She and Brian developed a respectful co-parenting relationship based on their children's needs rather than their own egos. I established the Linda Carlton Foundation with $5 million, scholarships for children of displaced workers, cancer research funding, support for small business owners facing hardship through no fault of their own. Brian volunteered at the foundation, helping other people navigate the bankruptcy and rebuilding process he'd been through. The success I'd achieved, the money I'd made, the company I'd built, all of it mattered less than the relationship I'd rebuilt with my son, less than the time I spent with my grandchildren, less than the peace I felt sitting on my deck with morning coffee, watching birds at the feeder. I learned that life's hardest lessons often come wrapped in the most painful experiences, that hitting bottom teaches you what you're made of. That love sometimes means letting people fall so they can learn to stand on their own. That real success isn't about never failing. It's about how you respond when everything falls apart. My son called me an embarrassment for 18 years. Then he lost everything and discovered that the embarrassment was actually the strongest person he knew. And I got my son back, not because of my success, but because I loved him enough to give him what he needed rather than what he wanted. That's the gift Walter gave me when he sold me his company for $1. Not the business itself, but the lesson that sometimes the greatest thing you can do for someone is believe in them when they've stopped believing in themselves. I pass that lesson forward now, to my employees, to my son, to my grandchildren, to anyone who's faced failure and wondered if they could ever rebuild. You can. I did. Brian did. And if we can, so can you. The view from the bottom isn't permanent. It's just the place where you learn what you're really made of. And sometimes, it's the best place to start building something that actually matters. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after losing everything? How did you find the strength to start over? And if you've been estranged from family, what did it take to find your way back to each other? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, redemption, and the power of second chances. Share this with someone who needs to know that it's never too late to start over, and that hitting bottom doesn't mean staying there. Thank you for listening to my story. May you find the strength to rebuild when life knocks you down, the wisdom to love people through their worst moments, and the grace to forgive both others and yourself. Until next time, take care of each other.